part 2 of my look at the Toys R Us exclusive animated figures, and this time it is the Cybertron mode Ratchet, who is a far better toy than I was expecting, and I hate to admit that I thought this would be subpar, but I had to admit, looking at this vehicle mode, I had my doubts. But those doubts were pleasantly alleviated. This is actually a very, very nice figure. Pretty nice sized, about on par with your usual animated deluxes. It is a good bit bulkier, since it's so squat. It's very, very compact in vehicle mode. It is a very nice recreation of his Cybertronian mode in the show. You got a lot of nice detail going on here. You can see the treads that have been painted on, give you the illusion that they go all the way around. And you can see here in the back as well, or on the underside, you can also see. Very, very, very nice little touch. You don't even see that most of the time in vehicle mode, so that was appreciated. It's a very nice profile. It's like, it kind of worries me because it's almost like Rodimus Prime profiled. The overhang and the hood here, and maybe it's just me that sees that. But you can see it's got a pretty sparsely detailed on the side, actually. You've got some lining detail here on the treads, and some paint apps here. Apparently, even on Cybertron, they have heartbeats of some kind, because he's still got the emblem for it. And in the rear here, you can see he uses these black pieces, which we'll cover in robot mode, to sort of hide his rear. It's hiding where his hands are, or where his elbows are, actually, in vehicle mode. As well as, yeah, you can see his crotch. That's pretty obvious. I think there's one point that disappoints me in the transformation, is that on the underbelly, there's a lot of parts in here that don't fold away in any fashion or sense, which is kind of unfortunate. You know, if this was ever repainted, it would have looked kind of cool to flatten these out and made a kind of a rover vehicle out of them. But, well, it's minor. It's still very accurate to the show, and surprisingly, it rolls fairly well, I mean, all things considered. I really didn't expect this thing to be as balanced as it is, because you're dealing with 4 legs, and pretty much all of them become arms or are swiveled in some way. But the legs peg in pretty well here in the back, so there's pretty much only one direction that the rear wheels can go in. And after that, all you have to do is make sure the front wheels are level, and pretty much any height is going to work. So it balances pretty well, better than I expected. And you can see here in the front, very nice paint apps. It keeps the same circuitry in the windshield design that the deluxe one had, which I think is a very nice effect, and it makes a lot more sense on a Cybertronian vehicle that doesn't have to pretend like it can hide humans. So that's pretty much the vehicle in a nutshell. It does a surprisingly better job than I thought. So how about robot mode now? Because that's the one I like the best. Over to robot mode, and you can see he's got a lot going for him in this one. It is a very sizable, very bulky and big deluxe. It surprised me when I first saw him how big he was. Let's compare to, say, Arcee, who's smallish, and he kind of dwarfs her in that respect. He's just flipping huge. I mean, let's compare him to a more normal sized Revenge of the Fallen toy. There's, say, here's Bludgeon, and yeah, even Bludgeon looks kind of smallish compared to this. Ratchet's got a lot of size to him, and it really works to his advantage. He looks tough, bulky, and really good representation of Ratchet being younger and in his prime. You can see he's got both of his horns, unlike the modern day original Ratchet, and he's smiling. He's a happy Ratchet. Look at that. Nothing going on that could worry him. He's got it handled. He's young. He's fit. He's ready. As opposed to later on, when this will turn into a beer gut and he'll have a horn broken off he doesn't even care about. Toy itself got a lot going on. The articulation is great up here in the shoulders for ball joints, swiveling just above the elbow, which is double jointed thanks to transformation, so you've got a lot of range in it. The wrists also turn. They're quite tight on mine, so let's give you a little demonstration there. He's got a lot in the legs too. He's got one of those transformation hinges that make the side bend a little bit. It can work to your advantage if the joint is stiff enough, but it does get annoying. And he's got some really good ball jointed hips here. Swivel above the knee. The knee, it could bend farther, I will admit. It does what it needs to do, but it doesn't excel. And like most anime figures, you can pose the feet as well. They kind of move in and out. So if you want any kind of more exotic pose, you can manage something, I'm sure. So very bulky, very balanced figure. Very big for the size. Oh, before I go any farther, as long as I've got him right here, before you buy, check these treads that are visible in robot mode. He's packed that way, so you'll be able to see him very clearly. If both are painted, perfectly fine. But there is a misassembly. If one of them is not painted, avoid it. You are getting a misassembled Ratchet. So heads up for those going hunting. Now, how about we take a look at accessories? We've got these two pieces, which they can store in the robot mode on the same pins, but they kind of form a butt of sorts, and that's just unsightly. I really didn't want to put you guys through watching me disassemble Ratchet's butt. But you can see here, they form shock pads, just in case he has to jumpstart somebody's spark in the middle of the battlefield. You can pretend that they're kind of electrified knuckles, I guess. Being a doctor forced into a war, I assume that's how he improv'd it. And a little ineffective as a weapon, I think. Visually, it's not too stunning, but for a doctor, it kind of makes sense. Definitely does not hold a candle to the toolkit the original Deluxe comes with. Also, his right elbow is hindered by this little switch here, which if you hold onto these tabs on the white section of his hand, you can push his fist outward. This also is not very effective visually. I mean, punching actions I'm kind of okay with, but as long as you're going to spring load an arm, I'd rather just have one good solid punch that I have to reload, because this doesn't do a whole lot. It's just kind of wimpy looking. But those are just a couple of minor nitpicks. There's really no reason for me to complain about this toy. And I'm surprised to say I almost like it better than Arcee. And if it hadn't been for 23 years of anticipation, I'd say Ratchet is my favorite of the two. Believe it or not. And unfortunately, I expect this one to peg warm a little bit. But do not be afraid of giving him a try. He's a very solid figure, a very good addition to your Autobot forces, and he's just everything that Animated does so well, just all wrapped up very nicely. Oh, that is Ratchet. Oh, by the way, yes, he does have the socket, so he too can fit Lockdown's engine EMP gun. So, he does everything you need him to do. Don't worry about that. Give him a try. He will not disappoint. So moving on from that, since I skipped it the last review, you guys have to be expecting this. The Magic Bag of Destiny returns. And this time it's going to be a fair pull. Reaching in, you can hear them clacking around in there. Let me clarify, the chips that I've pulled so far, I've not put them back in the bag yet. So anything that I have not done yet is possible to be pulled out of this bag, because I don't want to give you guys too many repeat performances or too many series in a row. Once it starts thinning out, I'll start putting them back in. But for now, we draw from what's left. There's a ton of chips left. I've got the chip selected, and we have another white one, and RID, Robots in Disguise. Car Robots, the 2000-2001 line, you guys know which one this is. So, make your picks. Whichever one you want from the series. I was kind of a completist, so I've got most of them. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned. Only you can decide what comes next.
The best place for toys on the net? BigBadToyStore.com. Pre-orders for all the hottest toys. The biggest brands. imports of your favorites. Vintage toys available again. Collectible replicas and statues. Pile of loot. Buy some now, some later, and get it shipped all at once. It's all there right now at BigBadToyStore.com.